halfway were the employment minister. At one point in time, he says about 5.3. If you look at your manifesto, it says 2.3 million jobs. Then Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia over the weekend was saying 2.6 million jobs. So is it 2.6 million jobs? So is it 2.3 or is it 5.3?
So 2.6 is the current. So if you listen to him, he says that the updated numbers that he got. So before he spoke on Sunday, he spoke to the SSNIT boss.
He mentioned that,
Yeah, to get the updated data from SSNIT. So he gives you the source of his data. The 2.3 was initially was 2.1. And then the numbers keep changing because the numbers are growing. Bafwewa, I believe, was referencing, because our numbers is looking at formal jobs only. So we are not counting the informal jobs, for example. Planting for food and jobs, we are not counting. The 2.6 that Dr. Bawumia is referring to, he's referring to people who have gone, their data has gone to SSNIT. So if somebody has gotten a temporary job under
NAPCO, for example.
NAPCO, for example, or if somebody has gotten a temporary job under Planting for Food and Jobs, etc. We are not counting that. There are ways where you can count, give some estimate on the informal side.
But even with
and
the
I think
2.6,
that's where he was doing.
But even with the 2.6, yesterday we were looking at this Afrobarometer report, that has been made available. And we were looking at the SSNIT contributors, and we were having a bit of concern whether the figure as churned out by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is accurate or not. And Eugene, you did some calculation. Can you share that with us? And let's see the response Kofi will give us.
Based on what Tonto is saying, it means that the SSNIT may not be giving the vice president the right information.
Yeah, what you are referring to is the active numbers.
Yes, yes. I think that they need to let SSNIT set up, because you see the numbers are mostly public knowledge. When you read the 2017, 2018, 2019 report of SSNIT, you see their active contributors. So, for example, in 2016, SSNIT had 1,353,610. So, for the plus, let's say 1.3 million. In the current SSNIT, their active contributors are 1.9.
Yeah, but you see,
let him answer. We can.
So,
thank you.
These are active contributors. So if they are in a formalized sector, and we had the difference in the last 7 years, so just about 300,000. If you come to the registration, the issue with the registration is that I'm a registered voter. If I don't vote on a day, I'm not counted. So I may be a registered voter, but the purpose for which that card was given to me have not been rendered. I don't know if you get the difference.
Yes, I do.
Again, when you even look at the GRA data from 2016 to 2019, our revenue has not gone up more than 20%. Pick the payee data of the GRA. So when you look at the critical sectors, pick up 30. This government has not done more than 100,000 security services in 8 years, because they are not a part of SSNIT. So the data sources they are giving them is either they are not feeding them the right data or they are not calculating well. Again, when you watch the NPP's own manifesto, and anybody can refer, right after Salam spoke, the youth organizer, the video they played on the jobs created, 1.5 million of them was attributed to the Planting for Food and Jobs. I said it yesterday. I said I didn't have the facts, so I watched it again. Just this morning before I came to the studio. The video they played right after the youth organizer spoke, Salam. Everybody can watch that video. It's on Dr.
So it's part. So it's part of the
jobs
the clips have created.
Was part of it. So that's what I'm saying, that there's too much.
Okay, so Eugene, let's take it one at a time. Planting for Food and Jobs, then that must have been an error. It's not part of the 2.6. It can't be part, because we are referencing SSNIT data. People who work under Planting for Food and Jobs are not captured under SSNIT. Mostly they are even temporary jobs, because they are seasonal jobs. Those are jobs. And then I was saying that there are informal, if a mason gets a job, that's a job. But we will not calculate. You see, the problem we have in Ghana is that you can talk to a barber, and a barber may tell you they don't have a job. Because psychologically, in some aspects, some jobs, people don't even classify it as a job, because it's not the job that they are looking for. So that is why we don't even account for the informal sector. We are only looking at the formal sector. The argument you raise about the numbers, in fact, when I was coming, I called the SSNIT boss, the former SSNIT boss, and I didn't get him. And then I tried getting Mr. Mafo, who's the current SSNIT boss. Because this question has come up before, and I've asked him before, but that was about 3 months ago. He explained it to me, but I wanted a refresh of memory. So essentially, when we talk about job creation, you need to look at job. When the government says they have created a job, it's an incidence. It may not be in existence, but it is an incident that happened at a particular time. So let me give you an example. We are 4 of us here. If we get employment here, we have been employed for a particular time. If any of us here loses that job, it doesn't discount the fact that at a material time
that job was created.
Yeah.
So Chief. So the question therein is that what kinds of job are we creating for our youth?
Especially when we also say
what kind of jobs are we creating for our youth?
So the question then comes, Dave, a minute. So the question comes twofold. We look at the sustainability of the job and the nature of the job.
Sure, that's a good argument.
When you create a job that gives somebody 700 cedis, that job or that person cannot be found as SSNIT. It means that the person's job doesn't pay social security.
Yeah, but that's why we are not talking about that job.
But that's what I'm saying, that when you even take those ones out, the SSNIT data, when you even pick the registration itself, it doesn't give you 2.6.
That's what I'm saying, that I would get the SSNIT boss to answer this question, because there's an answer for it. I don't work at SSNIT. What you are telling me is the active numbers. And I'm saying that the active number is looking at persons who are actively paying now. But there are incidents of persons who came in, went out. They may not be actively paying now, but they were employed at a material time. That's a job created. So you don't say that because that person is not working now, that job was never created. The world over, you don't calculate unemployment that way. You calculate it by the incidence of the transaction. So the job was created at a material time. It's a job created. If the person has lost it, now you look at attrition rate. That's a different argument. So you must look at employment and then look at attrition. So you can say that, okay, government may have created 2.6 million jobs, but because of economic challenges, we've seen higher attrition. You get what I'm saying? So maybe more people have come off the active list because we've seen higher attrition. Doesn't mean those jobs were never created. Those are the nuances that the SSNIT people will be the best to explain it.
And again, you say you're going to speak to Mr. Mafo.
Yeah, I can get Mr. Mafo to talk to you guys on that.
Knowing how significant and key unemployment is on the minds of Ghanaians.
Very key.
Your party talks about creating of new jobs, and the data I have here, you have talking about almost creating about 20 or more jobs. You talk about what
areas of jobs.
Yes, areas. Yes, that's what I mean. So you talk about creating jobs for artisans. You mentioned carpenters, masons, and welders, and blah blah blah. Creating SME jobs. In the introduction of the SME bank and all that. How are you going to put this across such that the average Ghanaian will not see it as one of the promises, empty promises in the manifesto?
Yeah, that's why we have tied those to specific policies. We've tied it to specific policies.
Give us examples.
So, for example, we talk about Buy Ghana First. The Buy Ghana First can create jobs, artisan jobs, and so many other jobs. The Buy Ghana First is a rhetoric that's not new to the Ghanaian economy. I mean, I'll be very dishonest to say that Mahmoud Bawumia is the first person to have spoken about Buy Ghana. The difference here is that we are saying that we want to move it from an encouragement, move it from let's do to a law.
So you're going to make it compulsory of a sort.
Compulsory of a sort by amending the Procurement Act.
So, for example, as an individual, are you going to also say that per the law I'm going to be compelled to?
No, not individuals.
Okay.
Government institutions. Government. That's why we are amending the Procurement Act.
Okay.
To say that government institutions because in the past, President Kufuor brought Wear Ghana. That's a way of encouraging people to buy Ghana.
The Friday
Wear. Ghana Tourism Authority started Buy Ghana, Eat Ghana, etc. But those are all means of encouraging people to party. But this is a law.
So like we had in Parliament where this refurbishment of Parliament, and they brought all the furniture
precisely
and all from China.
Now because
and Ghanaians were talking about
now
it.
Because Parliament is a state institution, by the Procurement Act, Parliament couldn't have done that, because the Procurement Act will say that Parliament, because chairs can necessarily be created here, even if the quality is not the best, we will insist that Parliament buy it from here. Because if you want a certain quality, you can engage the company to get the quality you want, even if the price is higher. Because one of the arguments state institutions make is that, okay, this chair, if I buy it from Ghana, it's 10 cedis. If I buy it from China, it's 7 cedis. So I'll buy it from China. The argument we are making is that no, China is able to sell it to you for 7 cedis or 5 cedis because of economics of scale. They are able to produce it in larger quantities, so production cost comes down. So you start buying at the 10 cedis. Over time, if we all start buying, production will increase and then prices will come down. That is the argument we are making. So Parliament couldn't have done that.
But again, when it comes to the production, other challenges come in.
And we've addressed some of them.
For example, power.
We have addressed it.
How expensive power is. And I know that the owner for Cable Metal, for example, says, we want to buy Ghana. We want to do this Ghana. But production cost is quite high.
We address that. In fact, one of the things we are doing to address the cost of power, there are two things. But immediately to your question is, we are changing the price formula for power for commercial. Now, commercial rates are higher than residential rates.
True.
So we are saying that no, reverse it. Either they are equal or lower. So commercial rates are now going to be either the same as residential or lower than residential. Because essentially, if you give me sitting at home lower electricity, I need to get a job to be able to pay for that lower electricity. And the person who's going to give me the job is suffering. So why don't you give the cheaper electricity to the commercial so they can employ me and then I can pay for my electricity? So that's the bit about it. Two, the reason why electricity is very expensive is because of the power purchase agreements we signed over the last 12 years under the NDC. And I'll share Eugene. One thing I recommend, I would say for Eugene is I've been watching his research. I'll share that research with you. It was written by a Pakistani. He did a research on the IPP agreements in emerging markets. How advanced countries, when certain companies like GE, General Electric, etc., reach their peak in terms of manufacturing, they needed new avenues to make money. So in the 1990s, World Bank and other Bretton Woods institutions came up with a syndicate to encourage emerging markets to go into IPP agreements. This is a thoroughly done research. So you see that across emerging countries, we were all signing these power barges agreements.
Take or pay.
Take or pay. So when we came in, we have $660 million every year we had to pay, whether we like it or not. Eugene, do the math for me. 660 times 8. How much is that? $660 million times 8. You get about 5.something billion. That is how much money we have had to pay, whether we like it or not, to keep the electricity on. Aside from that, the challenge with the take or pay agreement is that we have to buy the fuel. That is how bad the agreement Mahama signed. In fact, when you read the argument, the research by the Pakistani, he mentioned President Mahama's name. He's the only president that the Pakistani mentions. That's how bad his decisions were. Now, that power purchase agreement, we have to pay 5.5 billion, not million, no, billion to keep the lights on. Then we have to buy fuel. So that power badge that you are paying take or pay, you have to put petrol, the sweet oil and or gas, you have to pay for it. So not only are you paying for the badges, you are paying. So it made it very expensive. That is why electricity is very expensive.
That's what Dr. Bawumia